guys, welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are here back with a deck profile, and it feels like literally forever since I did my last deck profile, mainly because I've been playing a lot of Mathmech and we've already seen that on the channel somewhat regularly. So today we're going to be profiling Labrynth, ladies and gents. Now this is a deck that I took to my most recent visit to locals. Now it's by no means optimized, it still needs a little bit of work, but I've got the core of what could be a decent deck. So I'm going to profile it for you guys. If you see anything that you think should be changed, definitely get at me in that comment section below. Now starting us off, obviously I am playing the triple Ariana the Labrynth Servant. This is searcher for the deck. Some people like to play two. I don't know. With the amount of monsters that we run, I like to see at least one of my starters, and this is a pseudo starter. Basically, I think this card's great. Gives you a draw if you remove a card from the opponent's field using a normal trap. So definitely powerful card. I'm running 3. I think 3 is correct. So yeah, let me know. Next, triple Lady of the Labrynth. Again, I think this is pretty standard. When I say pretty standard, from the lists that I've seen, most lists are playing 3. I've seen a couple of lists that are playing 2, but they're usually on something a little bit more spicy. And yeah, but I think 3 is fine. It's the only one that kind of it needs the least amount of stuff to go off to be able to kind of like get itself on field. So I didn't realize, but you can actually proc it off the Labrynth monster effects as well as just normal trap cards, which is just crazy. So that was one thing I missed as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of oversight on my part. And finally, for the big Labrynth, this is probably my favorite card in a deck. Lovely Lady Labrynth, or Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle. She's the one that doesn't actually get herself onto the field, but is arguably a very impactful card. It pops cards on your opponent's field or in their hand, and it can also just set a normal trap from graveyard, which is another effect that I kind of missed when I had her on field. I wasn't using her to her fullest potential. So definitely a strong card. It is a one-off, mainly because it doesn't get itself on the field by itself. It relies on other cards, so you don't want to brick by having like too many of these in your deck. But I wish I could play more, just because I like the fact that when she hits the field, she starts impacting. She's a threat basically. So yeah. Next up, for the quote-unquote furniture, I'm playing 3 Stovey. I will explain the 3 Stovey when I get to the extra deck, but if you're not too sure, Stovey's a level 2 and your lovely Labrynths or Lady Labrynths are level 8, so just keep that in mind, ladies and gents. Next I played the 2 Labrynth Chandragrilea as well as the 1 Labrynth Kuklok. Now Stovey and Chandragrilea, they basically can just set a card straight from your deck, a Labrynth card, Labrynth trap basically. So they're nice, and they can also recur themselves out of the graveyard. Kuklok just allows you to activate a trap the turn it was set. So Kuklok's very powerful, but you don't ever want to kind of like see him early on. You want to basically like search him and then just like resolve him that way. But just seeing him in the open hand feels bad, because you know that you're going to neg, and it might get negated, it might not go off. And if you get ashed on your big welcome after you've Kukloked, you've kind of got neg 2 for no reason. So yeah, is what it is. Next, for some of the hand traps, I'm playing triple Nibiru the Primal Being. This can be interchangeable. My locals, there's quite a few heavy combo decks, so I've decided to main the Nibiru and side the Ash Blossoms. But if I do continue to go locals with the popularity of branded, I might swap these out for Ash, because Nibiru gets branded is a bit hit and miss depending on if to go the Dragoon line. And yeah, I like to kind of like vary my hand traps, but Nib is just, like I said in the video, ladies and gents, if people don't respect Nib, it's a very good card. As soon as they start respecting it, it becomes a bad card, just because everybody's playing around it. So we're in a bit of a flux at the moment, so Nib is kind of like touch and go, but I like it at the moment. It might change later on in the format. Just for some more negation and to be able to proc Lady, got triple infinite impermanence, nothing more needs to be said. And I'm also playing the 1 Wannabe. Now I'm considering upping this to 2. It just digs for traps basically, and you can proc it on your first turn, ready to go. Sorry, if you go in second, for example, you can proc it on your opponent's first turn or your turn 0, and actually get a trap set off it depending on what they've set up on their board. So it is a little bit of an interesting card, to say the least. So that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we're running one Labrynth. Again, I really like this card. It just ultimate destruction. I like the idea of just popping stuff constantly, just pow, that goes to the grave, that goes to the grave, and this facilitates that, as well as like recurring your welcome Labrynths. And the only other spell that we play is triple pot of extravagance. You could arguably go prosperity, but extrav, just seeing 2 more cards is nice, especially with the furniture stuff. You basically like pitching your hand to grave, so you kind of need to just recur some of those resources to be able to continue to play, and then obviously those cards that you pitch to grave then reoccur them back to your hand, so it's a nice little loop that you get going, and you can kind of like maintain your hand advantage. So yeah, that's it for the spells. For the traps, the Labrynth traps, triple welcome Labrynth, just goes without saying. I used to really like this card, but triple big welcome Labrynth, this is probably the better card in the deck. It doesn't lock you into anything. It does require you to bounce a monster, but this card's crazy, especially with the graveyard effect. I really enjoy this card. So 3 and 3, just to see your big monsters on field, and this one can also recur at the graveyard, so yeah, it's nice. Next, triple compulsory evacuation device. Again, not once per turn, can bounce multiple things, can bounce your own monsters if need be, if you're trying to dodge certain effects, so very powerful card. And then for some bit of a spicy one-offs, now these are all the one-offs that can be set off your Lady Labrynth, hence why they're only at 1. You can also recur them out of your graveyard. So for some more like floodgate style traps, I've gone for one Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Now I'm not maining Skill Drain, to be honest. I do have it somewhere, my side's all over the place, but I might show you a few cards that I've got in the side deck. But yeah, Eradicate a Epidemic Virus, you can set it off Lady. Again, it's just a blowout basically. One Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, as well as some of my removal spells. Now the removal spells are quite interesting, so I've got 4 removal spells in total. I've got 1 Archfiend's Ghastly Glitch, 1 Dogmatica Punishment, 1 Ice Dragon's Prison. These are all different styles of removal basically, just because I felt like if you can't beat over like some of the bigger monsters that could potentially hit your board, you need some way of removing them, and having some varied interaction is nice. Also with Ghastly Glitch, you can also like pop a card, so you can just like pop a back row if need be. So definitely a nice little interaction there. You can also get a Foolish Burial, so you can actually Foolish Burial your Q Clock, any of your furniture pieces, and then just get them to go. And even though it doesn't say Labrynth, it's just got the 2 Labrynth servants on the card, so it was made for this deck basically. I've also got 1 Terrors of the Overroot. Again, just another little bit of removal. Normally you just bring back a hand trap, it's as simple as that, as long as it ain't Ghost Ogre. But yeah, normally just bring back a hand trap, Ash Blossom or something like that, and it just removes a card on the field, but it does require targeting. And then finally, we have got 1 Dimensional Barrier. Again, just another nice little floodgate card. Can be reoccurred. If need be, you can side into these. This is what I'm saying about my side. It's still a bit hit and miss, just because I'm kind of like feeling my way around the deck. But that's it for the main deck, ladies and gents. So let's just get all these out of the way and get straight onto the extra deck. Now, extra deck is a little bit pricey just because these cards have skyrocketed. I think this is just because of the like popularity of Labrynth basically. So double Muckraker, this is probably one of the cards that you go into the most. I do have a third somewhere, and I probably will put it in if I can find it, but definitely a nice card, especially with extra. You want to kind of like at least have 1 of these in your extra deck, so make sure you're giving your extra deck a good shuffle before you decide to banish 6 for your draw 2. Next up, we've got double Tri-Brigade Bucephalus. This is just, again, this is a nice Dogmatica Punishment target, 3500 attack, and it can Foolish Burial another extra deck monster, which is useful. So depending on the situation, you can kind of like send what you need. Double Nightmare Cerberus, it's a fiend, pops a card on the field. Just another form of removal basically, so yeah. 1 Paleozoic Cambro-Rastat. Now, this is to dump off the Bucephalus. It protects your back row basically, so Duster, Lightning Storm, it doesn't activate as long as it's in graveyard. Any set card that would be destroyed, you just banish this card instead. So it's a nice little bit of protection. 1 Baphomet. This does not need to be in here. Very seldom do you actually get to resolve this card. I did resolve it once in testing, But this could just be a placeholder for like Mudcracker or something like that. I just literally just needed some filler cards because I wanted to make sure I had enough for at least a double extravagance banish. So yeah. One Mirror Logic Aggregator. Again, this is a nice dogmatic, a punishment target or Bucephalus target. Negates a card when it gets sent to the graveyard, basically. So yeah, nice little interaction. Double Entis, nothing needs to be said about this, as well as Golden Cloud Beast Malong. I really like this card. Once it's sent to the graveyard, it can bounce a monster that your opponent controls. So in fact, it's a card. So yeah, very, very nice. I like this card. Excellent. And then the final card of the deck is Double Chaos Angel. If I could get a third, I would play a third. I actually pulled both of these, so my luck has literally been in. I pulled one at UK Nationals, by the way, so that was crazy. But yeah, Double Chaos Angel. So this is the reason why I max out on Stovey. Stovey's a 2, Ladies are 8, and you don't require, you can treat a light or dark monster as a synchro tuner, sorry, for the synchro summon of this card. So you literally, it's like a Link 2 basically, and as soon as it's summoned, it puts a lot of pressure on the field. So yeah, it's a game, and that if I had a third, I definitely would put it in, just because I think I resolved Extravagance for 3. So I banished 3 cards, and I managed to hit both of my Chaos Angels, which was crazy. So yeah, definitely having a third would come in handy. So yeah. And that is it for the main deck, ladies and gents. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of the side. The side is not complete by any stretch of the imagination, but I just wanted to go through this with you guys, just so if you've got any thoughts or any ideas on it, just obviously let me know in the comment section. So Triple Ash, this is just for the branded matchup. I put it in the side just because there's not that many people playing branded at my locals, but obviously at a larger tournament, I'll probably swap this out for Nibiru and slide the Nibiru's in. Judgment, you kind of need this going into games 2 and 3. Once to know that you're playing back row, deciding in outs. Dust and wipe me out. Lightning Storm's still a thing, so yeah, definitely. Lava Golem, again, this is a nice side deck card. You could arguably main deck this. It's a fiend as well, which makes for some really weird, interesting like interactions. But double Lava Golem just for some easy removal. And then this is the point of contention. I'm running 3 Bestials, so 2 Magnamut and a Druid Worm. Again, I was just kind of like thinking about like branded or that kind of thing. Just being able to like interact with their branded in red, or potentially any of their like, well, quote unquote expulsion targets. Expulsion's gone now, but Albion and Sanctified Dragon's basically the same thing. So having a couple of Bestials kind of like help mitigate that, as well as having a bigger body on board just to kind of like push for an OTK, because you can OTK, but it's in most circumstances you're going to be grinding down your opponent and trying to just go for the win that way. Next, triple evenly match or a trap deck. This works. It's removal against other trap decks, which is useful. And then finally, Weybridge. I just wanted to test this card basically. If your opponent got 2 or more monsters more than you do, you force them to send monsters to the graveyard until they've got 1 monster on field. So it's a little bit of removal, but it acts like evenly match rate. It forces your opponent to do the action. So any kind of towers, monsters, or anything like that, they just basically can get out of using that. So yeah. And then finally, honorable mentions. Trap Trick and the second Wannabe. Obviously, the second Wannabe potentially could go in if it could find some space. And Trap Trick could probably be a 2 of. I'm still considering whether or not to put it in. If I do up the D barrier count, then I might consider putting in Trap Trick just to be able to kind of like see. So you could Wannabe, set the Trap Trick off, Wannabe, and then you can Trap Trick it into a card. So very, very useful. I'm not too sure. We'll see, ladies and gents. But yeah, that is it, ladies and gents. That is the profile. Like I said, if there's anything that you feel like I could include in here, definitely get at me in that comment section below. And we have arrived at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff. And I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.